There, I played the clip. Happy? Well, I know I am, because, yes, this is my birthday video. Even though it's not my birthday. My birthday was back on the 20th. I was gonna try and get this video out then, but obviously time wasn't on my side. So, well, here we are. But as tradition goes, since this is my annual birthday video, that means I have to talk about something special related to my childhood. So, let's go over to the shelf and see what we can find. Oh, Sharb! Galib! Bah! I've been playing video games for as long as I can remember, and my passion for video games was solidified by consoles like the GameCube and the PlayStation 2. But while I was growing up, we wouldn't get those systems in our house until around the mid-2000s, so most of my earliest gaming experiences actually came from computers. I used to play a ton of Blue's Clues and VeggieTales games on my cousin's old PC that ran on Windows 95, and we had a Windows XP machine that had this Shockwave game gallery sort of thing, which introduced me to games like Centipede and Frogger. But there was one computer game I played during my childhood that just totally mesmerized me. Something that brings back nothing but fond memories and almost completely changed the way I looked at video games. That was the original Sims. Oh boy, where do I even begin with this? Well, this is quite possibly the first PC game I ever played, or at least the first one I remember playing. And it's fun to look back on, considering how much the Sims series has changed and evolved over the past 2 decades compared to how they were first conceived. The initial idea for The Sims came to series creator Will Wright while he was thinking of ways to rebuild his house after it caught fire and burnt down. He also took inspiration from books about architecture and human behavior, combining these elements together to form the basic concept for The Sims. However, the top brass at Maxis weren't too enthusiastic about Wright's ideas. They still let him make the game, they just wouldn't provide much in the way of funding. Then Electronic Arts bought the company in 1997 and were like, bruh, that's the SimCity guy. We made a lot of money off that game. Help him! I guess there actually was a time when EA made good business decisions. But in hindsight, it really seemed like the next logical step for Wright to take. SimCity had players managing an entire world, while The Sims let you control the lives of the people living within it. And now this quirky little game from my youth is part of the single most successful PC game series of all time, selling over 200 million units worldwide, with plenty of sequels, spin-offs, a game show, and a movie that, thankfully, never saw the light of day. Oh, brother! I wasn't exaggerating when I said The Sims changed how I looked at video games. It introduced me to the concept of life simulation games. It made me wonder if I was gonna grow to become a serial killer. And over the years, I dabble in a few Sims side projects here and there. My brother and I played a lot of MySims Agents on the Wii. He had Sims 2 Castaway for the DS and Sims 3 on the 3DS. And I remember there was a game called Bustin' for the PS2, which was like an adventure game of some kind, despite it having a really dirty sounding title. But the main games are what I'm more familiar with, so these are the ones I'm going to be focusing on for this retrospective. Now, without further ado, I didn't write this part, so let's just go ahead and get into things. Alright, here we are, the first Sims game, and once we get it booted up, we're treated to a loading screen with Comic Sans! Oy, we really are back in the early 2000s, aren't we? Oh, wow. Just looking at this screen is already giving me a serious case of nostalgia. The isometric camera angle, looking down at all the houses and trees everywhere, it feels like I'm back in my old hometown. And as I make my way to the Create a Sim menu, I can already see the groundwork being laid out for the future. Sims act as player characters, and you can customize them however you liked, at least with their name, age, gender, skin color, and personality traits. Heads, hairstyles, and clothing options were all pre-made, so you were pretty limited there. But once you got your household finished, you could move them onto a vacant lot, where you'd then be able to build their home entirely from scratch, or if there's already a house on the property, redecorate it and fill it up with different kinds of furniture. Building and buying stuff cost money, however, and the only way you can afford to get a foosball table or any basic necessity is with simoleons. Your Sims can make some extra cash by taking up jobs, but like 98% of all other Sims players, I use cheat codes. Yep, I just hit Ctrl-Shift-C, type in a spoiler for Citizen Kane, or copy and paste an exclamation point followed by a semicolon over and over until your Sim basically became a billionaire in a matter of minutes. Now I can be just like J.K. Rowling. Without the whole transphobia thing. Then after spending about an hour and a half creating my ultimate dream house, it was time for your Sims to live their lives. You control everything they do. Sims in this game have minimal free will, so they won't do very much on their own unless it involves looking at common household objects and trying to figure out what they are. This means you're responsible for feeding them, making sure they go to the bathroom when they need to, putting them to bed, keeping them entertained, and having them socialize with other Sims to form relationships. Admittedly, the base game didn't really give you that much else to do beyond that, so in a way it was more like a virtual pet simulator, just with people. But if you wanted to get more out of your Sims experience, you had a smorgasbord of expansion packs to play with. With these, new areas opened up, allowing you to travel downtown, take a vacation, become a celebrity, or practice magic. I don't remember trying any of these as a kid, but I'm sure I would have had a lot of fun with them. Until I found out I could do this. What a beautiful sight. Yeah, if you're creative enough, you can make some pretty incredible things happen. And by incredible, I mean stupid and hilarious. But players more accustomed to how later games in the series handled might find going back to the original Sims game to be a bit of a struggle, especially with how demanding caring for Sims can be. These bars down here represent an individual Sim's needs, like hunger, comfort, energy, and so forth. Taking care of your Sims keeps their needs in the green, which means they're in a good mood. But not taking enough care of them will cause their needs to slip into red, making their mood worse. Now every time I hear Kermit the Frog sing about how it's not easy being green, I'm gonna start thinking that song was written from the perspective of the needs menu from The Sims. Trying to keep your Sims in a good mood is the most difficult part of the game because their needs drop so quickly and there are so many of them too, you wonder how they expect you to manage them all. Sometimes if one of their needs is completely red, you might try to get them to do something to raise it up, but because some of their other needs might also be down, your Sim can just outright refuse to do what you tell them to because they're in too much of a bad mood. I'm conflicted! This is extremely frustrating, but I can't hate the game for it because my nostalgia won't let me. It is also the first game after all, so I've gotta cut it some slack. Besides, there's still way more to appreciate it for anyway. It doesn't just stick out from the rest of the series due to some slightly dated design choices and limitations that come with them, but for its own unique elements that I think give it a specific kind of charm you won't find in any of the games that follow. The retro aesthetic, the simplistic user interface, the freaking amazing background music. Honestly, I always thought The Sims 1 had the greatest soundtrack in the whole series. I'm not even kidding when I say it makes the other games' music seem generic by comparison. It's seriously one of my top 5 favorite video game soundtracks of all time, as well as my go-to playlist of songs to jam to while I'm working. In fact, I'm probably listening to it right now while I'm working on this video. Right, future Marc?
Huh?
Yep, there you go. Jerry Martin and Marc Russo bring so much flavor to the music, especially with the piano tracks. Being a piano player myself, I could tell these aren't just pieces you write, they had to come from a deeper place. If you've seen the movie Soul, you'll know what I mean. That improvisational style makes the music feel more personal and less manufactured. Talking about it won't do it any justice, so please look up the soundtrack on YouTube or Spotify and check it out for yourself. It's truly superb. Until they start singing. But with The Sims being the biggest selling computer game at the time, of course, EA and Maxis had to follow it up with a sequel. And follow it up they did, with The Sims 2 in 2004. Now, I should let you guys know that from here on out, I'm not going to go super deep into my personal history with this or the next two games, because I don't have as many distinct memories with them as I do with the original. I mean, I definitely didn't play the second one nearly as much as the first, but when I did get to play it, on the off chance that my aunt would let me use her laptop, I still enjoyed it.
It's what I think any Sims fan would have wanted from a sequel. The core gameplay is mostly the same, but there are also plenty of improvements. The Sims 1 was all 2D, with the character models being pre-rendered sprites, while The Sims 2 is completely 3D. The fixed isometric camera was swapped out for a freeform, fully controllable camera. They added a new cheat code that would soon become a staple of the Sims series.
The motherload!
The music, though nowhere near as good as the first, is still pretty solid, with composer Marc Mothersbaugh utilizing his signature pop style to add a splash of personality to each track. This also marked the first time where the developers got the rights to include versions of songs by popular artists performed entirely in Simlish by the actual artists themselves. Later games would keep this trend going and bring in people like Katy Perry, OK Go, Carly Rae Jepsen, and even 5 seconds of who are these guys again? By the way, if you actually want to see the artists in the studio recording the Simlish versions of their songs, there's behind the scenes footage of it online. It also goes into the process of writers and producers having to translate the song lyrics into Simlish, which is pretty interesting. So if you want to know more about how that goes, or if you just want to see performers laughing at the sheer absurdity of what they have to say, then go look it up on YouTube. You'll find plenty of clips.
I got who's in my pukil.
Back on topic, Create-A-Sim options are way more varied since you can mess with your Sim's face, give them different hairstyles, add some facial hair, and pick from more stages of life like Elder, Teenager, and Young Adult with the University expansion. It's still not without its limits, however. Pants and shoes are still grouped together, so if there's a pair of jeans you like that comes with a pair of shoes you don't like, then too bad. Thankfully, your Sims are nowhere near as needy as the first game, so managing their lives is far less stressful. Which is more than what I can say for my own life. And, I really wish I had more to talk about with The Sims 2. I could look at more of the expansion packs, but I never played any of them growing up, and I only got a small taste of the vacation pack for the first time while getting footage for this video. There was this one bit where I was just sitting on a beach and then this other Sim walked up to me and then just left, so that was kind of funny. Also, my Sim Shadow showed up as a plain black rectangle once. Yeah, but aside from all the obvious improvements, my experience wasn't all that different from the time I spent replaying the first game. I had a good time for sure, it's just that most of what makes it stand out from its predecessor was all superficial to me. I mean, isn't there anything else about The Sims 2 that's worth...
Thompson.
Oh man, this guy. If you could take the entire state of Florida and stuff it into the skin of a bootleg Bill Clinton doll, you'd have Jack Thompson. Never heard of him? Well, he's an attorney, a disbarred one at that, and he thinks video games are a plague sent from the depths of hell, including The Sims. You know how when Sims get naked, parts of their bodies get pixelated? Thompson thought there was actual genitalia modeled onto the characters being hidden by the blur, and that players could use a cheat code to turn the pixelation off and be exposed to all the naughty bits. The Sims really would be busting out, wouldn't they? But here's the thing. The Sims 2 did have a cheat code to get rid of the blur, which was patched out with later expansions, but Sims themselves didn't have any detailed boobs, bushes, or willies of any kind. They're as anatomically accurate as Barbie dolls. So Thompson either made his claims because he legitimately thought they were promoting overtly sexual themes, something the ESRB clearly made a warning about on the back of the box, or because The Sims 2 was incredibly popular at the time, and he just wanted to use it to bring more attention to himself.
But what person or company would stoop so low as to cash in on a video game success just to promote their own closed-minded, self-serving political agendas? Hello? What's this? It's a letter from Anita Sarkeesian, who apparently works for PETA now. I'm triggered. Don't ever call me out like that again. Wait, I mean, I'm not like that at all. Sigh. Forget it. Why would she write that down?
Who cares? Let's move on to The Sims 3. I've gotta tell you, out of all the mainline Sims games, this might be the one that I have the least memories with. My sisters were really into it, and maybe every once in a while my oldest sister would let me play it on her computer, but I wasn't playing a lot of PC games as much as I used to, since by the time the game came out in 2009, my attention was squarely on the Wii and the DS. Plus, my brother and I were still stuck with the Windows XP machine at this time, and we couldn't really play a lot of games on it without having a defibrillator on standby. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about that anymore, so now I can make up for all the time I could have spent on The Sims 3 and see how it compares to its older brothers. It's here where I started to notice that The Sims' core gameplay doesn't seem to change all that much from one game to the next. Not to say they're all just copied and pasted over and over like some game franchises, others even from the same publisher, but any major changes applied to the Sims formula are mainly with the art style, means of traveling, and character creation options, while the life simulation part only sees a few minor additions and alterations. There's this lifetime happiness system where you gain points based on how happy your Sims are, and once you rack up enough points, you can use them to purchase rewards, which, as far as I know, might just be achievements. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. This reminded me a lot of the Nook Miles in Animal Crossing New Horizons, minus me actually caring about it. But what about those more major changes? Well, let's start with the aesthetic. The first two games had Sims characters look almost like CG Disney characters, but leaning just a bit more to the human side. The Sims 3 decided to veer away from the cartooniness and make everything look as realistic as possible. And it does not hold up well at all. This might have looked good 12 years ago, and to be fair, it looks a little better than I remember it, but the character animations look stiffer, more robotic, and nowhere near as expressive as Sims 2 or even The Sims 1. And frankly, most of these Sims are just downright ugly. When it's not by my choice. While we're discussing the presentation, this game also might just have the weakest soundtrack in the series for me. I don't find any of the music bad, it's all perfectly good stuff. Some of it's even pretty catchy, like the title theme. I just find most of it to be too generic, sounding less like The Sims and more like stock music that you'd hear in random commercials and movie trailers. In fact, I've seen documentaries and DVD bonus features that actually have used music from this game. Steve Jablonsky is a very talented composer, and maybe keeping things simple was just the direction he was given? But while the Sims 3 soundtrack isn't bad, it's just a bit underwhelming as Sims music goes. Now, in an effort to appease any Sims 3 fans I might have offended by now, why don't we go back to talking about things I like about the game? Like the new Create a Sim options. The limitations holding the first two games down are almost completely gone, so you can actually pick separate pairs of pants and shoes now. Oh, happy day! You're also given different voices to pick for your Sim, and you have a pitch slider for whether you want their voice to be higher or lower. Oh yeah. There's a body modifier that lets you adjust muscle definition and make your Sim super thin or extra thick. And you can even customize your Sim's clothing by changing up the patterns and colors. In the first two games, if you wanted to take a vacation or visit community lots, you'd select them on the map screen and wait for the game to load you and your Sim into that area. In this game, everything is already loaded in, so instead of seeing a load screen, you get to watch your Sim drive their extremely expensive sports car from one place to another. This only applies to the neighborhood your Sim is living in, but it does make it feel more like an actual neighborhood, and the transitions are pretty seamless. Though, seeing my Sim in the driver's seat of this car does make me feel like something's missing. What could it be? Ah! Perfect.
The Sims 3 clearly has a lot going for it, and is objectively better than both the first and second games. I guess I just don't feel very attached to it because I didn't grow up playing it as much as I did the original Sims, or even The Sims 2. So, I guess you could say I appreciate it more than I really like it. Still, what other Sims game can you say lets you go to an art museum just to use the bathroom? I thought so. But looks like we only have one more game left to talk about, so let's get it up and running. Okay. I'm trying to boot up The Sims 4, but instead I got a GIF or a GIF of the EA logo milking a cow with a picture of The Sims 4 box art on it. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, this is a pretty unusual game we have here. Sims games normally have a lifespan of about 4 to 5 years, but The Sims 4 came out back in 2014 and is still getting support. But maybe the developers didn't feel the need to pump out a sequel as quickly this time because they thought this game was good enough to last a bit longer than the other ones. And to EA's credit, there are things about The Sims 4 that do technically make it the best in the series. I'm not sure how many of you will remember this, and judging from the view count, you most likely won't, but I actually did a quick review of this game back in July of 2015. It wasn't really a review as much as it was a first impressions kind of thing. I just got in the game, I didn't have any of the expansion packs, and I think I only put about maybe 2 or 3 hours into it. So here we are again. It's 6 years later. I have nearly every expansion pack, most of the game packs, some of the stuff packs, and I've played it for way more than 2 or 3 hours in total. Yeah, so I kinda really like this game a lot. Is it my favorite? Well, yeah, but at the same time, no. As far as the core gameplay is concerned, no Sims game has played or felt better than this. Everything we've seen before has been streamlined and made nearly perfect, even if 1 or 2 elements ended up getting lost in translation. The worlds don't have the same interconnectivity that Sims 3 had, but on the bright side, each town has its own theme and aren't just variations of the same settings. Create a Sim also doesn't have as many customization options as the previous game, but you can give Sims any clothes or hairstyles you want, no matter what their gender is. Hell yeah, dude. Shout out to my non-binary pals out there. And you can resize and resculpt different parts of your Sim's body. It's like working with clay. This is such a nice feature. Visually, Sims 4 goes back to the stylized realism utilized in The Sims 1 and 2, and has some of the most vibrant colors and nicest looking backgrounds in the whole series. No more dips into the uncanny valley. Now, if only some of these Sims knew how to properly give each other high fives. The music is of a similar style to The Sims 3, very nice sounding, if a little generic, and I wasn't super big on it in that game, but I don't mind it here, mainly because I've already heard this soundtrack so much that I've just gotten used to it by now, so there's definitely a bit of bias there. Oh, speaking of music, this was the first time I ever imported my own custom content into a Sims game because I could add my own songs to a custom music folder and play it through stereos and jukeboxes. And since then, I've come to regret many of the choices I've made. And since The Sims 4 has been on the market longer than the other games, it's also received the largest number of expansion packs. There's Snowy Escape, which gave me serious Sims 1 flashbacks with the ski lodge and snowboarding, Island Living, which adds some beautiful beaches and water-related activities for you to partake in, Jungle Adventure, which lets you explore ancient temple ruins, a Star Wars expansion where you could do all of your favorite Star Wars-related things, as long as your favorite Star Wars-related things come from the sequel trilogy, but I don't care, because I like those movies, they're good, don't at me. And I think my favorite might just be Get Famous, because I can have my Sim work as a content creator, editing videos and posting them online. God, this first-person footage is gonna make working on this video feel extremely meta.
Oh yeah, you could play The Sims in first person now. There's absolutely no reason for this to be a thing, but I'm kind of glad they put this in. Oh dear, this is not what I thought woohooing was gonna be like. Ah! Nope! never mind, this was a mistake, I want out!
So, for as much as I think the expansion packs do a great job at enhancing my experience with this game, I never realized just how much they've affected my overall opinion on The Sims 4 as well. Easily more so than any of the other games. Because before we had all the updates and DLC, the base game was pretty bare. There was still a solid foundation, and you could say it only seems lacking now since we have all the added content to take into consideration. It's just a little odd in retrospect that there are still elements of the series that fans consider to be crucial components that were either patched in later on after the game was released, made available as paid DLC when other Sims games already had them from the start, or have yet to be included, if they will be at all. Obviously, I have the most up-to-date version of the game possible, with a good chunk of extra packs installed, so my time with it has been nothing short of fantastic. But this does make it tricky for me to recommend The Sims 4, since I feel it's only really worth playing with enough expansion packs installed to give players a more fleshed out experience, and depending on what exactly you're looking for, that's more money you'll need to put up on top of the $30 to $40 you're already paying for the base game. Maybe with The Sims 5, they can switch to a free-to-play model and only charge people for the DLC, kind of like Sims Mobile, or just put more stuff into the base game to warrant a $30 to $40 price tag.
That's assuming we'll ever even get a Sims 5, because The Sims 4 has shown no signs of slowing down, and most likely won't be going away for a long time. Which isn't entirely a bad thing, at least for me. The expansion packs really do make this game more fun to play, and I don't regret putting nearly 600 hours into it. And for the sake of wrapping things up, I don't regret the time I've put into this series either. Life sim games are still a big thing in the industry, but never has there been anything quite like The Sims. No other games are as eccentric, straightforward, or just downright iconic when it comes to the genre. Many have come close, and others achieved their own well-deserved success like Stardew Valley, but The Sims will always reign supreme for me. Now, how would I rank these games? Well, I'd put the original Sims on top, mainly because of nostalgia and the soundtrack. Then The Sims 4 just underneath it for the changes it brought to the table. And in third, I'll put The Sims 2 for how it improves on the first game while keeping true to what had been established. Then at the bottom, I have to put The Sims 3, because while technically it's better than The Sims 2 and is still pretty fun to play, just look at it. Man, just look at it. Well, no matter which games I think are the best or the worst, replaying all of them has been a very fun and introspective ride. You also might have seen a few snippets of some really weird and bizarre moments that happened to this one particular family. Well, that's because I also chronicled the adventures of this family, which is kind of like a joke family that I made for this video. And I initially wanted to share their misadventures with you, but their life story ended up being so big and so interesting that I couldn't easily fit it in here. To make up for that, I'm releasing it as its own separate video as a timed exclusive to my Patreon supporters and YouTube members. However, I'm all Sims'd out at the moment. I've already struggled enough just to get this video done, so that might take a while to come. Regardless, thanks for coming on this journey with me. And even if I missed my birthday deadline, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do something fun to celebrate still. Oh look! Someone even gifted me a game on Steam. Ooh, it's from my friend Jake. Oh, what a nice guy. He's always done so much for me in the past, and I'm sure whatever he got me is going to be really pure and wholesome. Jake!
Hello! Thanks for watching, everybody, and as always, a very special thank you to my superstar supporters, Red Rack, Sun Blumiri, Henry Newman, and Jake Winans. If you'd like to support me as well, then please consider pledging to my Patreon page or becoming a sponsor by clicking the join button. Membership options give you the same benefits as my Patreon, including being able to watch videos before they come out, getting access to exclusive content, and getting shoutouts at the end of my videos. Both my Patreon and YouTube membership are totally optional, but it would certainly mean a lot to me if you gave them a look. And if I sound a bit groggy or tired during this section, well, that's because I am. I haven't even finished the video yet by the time I'm recording this, so I'm not sure when exactly it's going to come out. I feel pretty bad for not being able to get this video out in time for my birthday, as the tradition goes, but a lot of you didn't really seem to care about that because you just showed so much kindness and respect and patience, which I was really taken aback by. Not that I was surprised, but I was like, oh, okay. So if they're willing to wait this long, I guess I can take my time with it. So, thank you for that. I am probably gonna take a little break after finishing this video, you know, just to recharge my batteries and take some time off and relax and enjoy myself, and also catch up on some personal projects that I need to get back to. I also might relaunch my merch store because apparently it went down due to inactivity, so I'm gonna see if I can take care of that. I can't really think of anything else to say because I'm just so tired and I need to get back to work, but I guess I'll just say thanks for showing so much support. It really just makes me feel better about myself, I guess. I don't know, I'm really bad with these, but I do love you guys a lot, and I really appreciate you supporting me and doing so much good, I guess, for me, even though that's not grammatically correct. But whatever, let's wrap things up before I continue blabbering on. Links to my social media and Discord server, as always, are in the description, and if you want to stay updated on my future uploads, be sure to ring that notification bell. Thanks again for watching, and with that said, this is Marc bidding you all a smashing farewell. See you guys.